There's an ongoing dynamic to grace. I take John to be reminding me that I constantly need fresh grace. And so I hope I can make you see how precious this is, that John doesn't just say Don Horban receives grace like Moses receives the law. But what he says is Don Horban receives grace upon grace, upon grace, upon grace. How would you do if you just got grace once and don't muck up again? Isn't there something incredibly precious there? Of his fullness. You can't empty this. You can't empty it. Of his fullness. We've all received, us right to this day, through the preaching of the gospel, and it's grace upon grace upon grace. Works like this. Grace. Oh, there's another one. See how that works? As you use it, only now imagine that you can't empty the box. It's just always there. Well, that's not in the budget. I better. Somebody use these. They're clean. You never just receive grace. You receive grace upon grace. You know, you can just go home happy in that, can't you? It's not an argument for laxness or carelessness or continuing in sin. Shall we continue in sin that grace may? I'm not saying that. What I am saying is he knows our frame. He knows where we're at. You get grace upon grace upon grace. He's saying we've all received, not just those who lived when Jesus was here on earth, we've all received the grace from the cross. It just keeps flowing. It keeps flowing. It keeps flowing. Grace upon grace upon grace. It has never stopped. It comes to people who mess up, and it comes to people who mess up over and over and over and over. Grace upon grace upon grace. Somebody say, "Great Scott, that's good news." Praise the Lord that this grace didn't come the same way that the law was given, on tablets of stone. Grace is a living dynamic. It flows. How could John say it better to sinful people than grace upon grace upon grace upon grace ad infinitum? One reliance upon grace, followed by another reliance upon grace, followed by another reliance upon grace. There, John says, that's the Christian life. Where do you get that but in Jesus Christ?